how did you get started in music? I always like to ask people these type of things because when people do things like music or painting or any of these type of things, it's always fascinating to me how they got into that. Like, how did you start? Like, did you have uh, musically gifted parents, or was it just something that the first time you picked up a guitar, it just spoke to you? Like, what is your whole thing? I watched an episode of Daces and Marrow recently where they had Yo Yo Ma on there, and they were making jokes about like smoking marijuana and stuff. And he said, "My cello is my weed." And like, so basically, like, it gets him high to play his cello. And I don't think I've ever felt that way about anything in my life. So I'm always interested to talk to people like that. Like, do you have that kind of passion, or is it just something that you really just enjoyed and wanted to be a part of? Like, how'd you get started?
Yeah, I definitely have that sort of passion, and it all started in my house growing up because my dad played guitar,
Mhm.
and he wasn't really ever serious about it. It was sort of just like a hobby for him. But when he did pull the guitar out and start playing some of the old folk songs, like Darlin' Corey is one that he used to play all the time, which is an old folk song about the Prohibition era and a woman who gets sort of caught up in running some moonshine, and she chooses the wrong path and ends up dying at the end. So it was just songs like that that we'd sing all the time, not in some sad like some sad mindset or
Mhm.
anything. It was just like a song that you'd sing, like a story that we'd all just sort of sit around and listen to, that we enjoyed hearing over and over and over again. So it was that sort of song and that sort of music that he would play, and I would sing along with him, as my brother would do too. And around 14, when I was 14, I started playing the banjo, and he played the guitar, and a lot of other people in my school, in my middle school and high school, were playing guitar too. And I wanted to be a little bit different, so I chose the banjo, and I learned that fairly quickly, I guess. And then after that, I started learning the harmonica, and I hadn't written any songs. I was just playing music that had already been around for years, that was in the public domain. People can play it freely. I was playing it with my dad, and then my brother started playing the mandolin. So we had like this little family band, and he set up shows for us, like at random nursing homes and things like that, to help us along, to see if it would take root in us. And then I also remember playing at a little restaurant that was down the hill from where we lived. It was called the Hillbilly Homestead, and I would just go in there and basically play like the same five songs over and over and over again as the customers rotated through on the banjo. Like, that's all I knew, but people were digging it because it was some young kid on a banjo. So I was like, this is kind of fun, and I started playing at my high school talent show, and it people were really digging it. So I just kept going down that path. I started a bluegrass band with my friends. We were called Bluegrass Tuesday. And then when I got to college, I started playing the guitar and writing songs. And it was a long time before I actually wrote a song that I was proud to perform in front of people. I wrote hundreds of songs, and I recorded them on my computer, and I would make like little CDs for my family. But those CDs, I don't talk about them very much. I don't even play any of the music from them because it's just so bad. And then once I started a college band with my friends, that's when I felt like I was getting a lot more confidence writing writing the stories that I wanted to basically portray in my songs. A lot of stories, and I was really starting to get the hang of murder ballads, um, and other types of funny ballads. Like I wrote a song about a gigolo, like a gigolo origin story,
Mhm.
and just random stories like that were just really fun, especially with the band, since we had a horn section. So it was basically like a Dave Matthews um, sort of folk uh, combination when we were doing that with murder ballads. and it was a lot of fun. And then once we all graduated, uh, I wanted to keep it going. So after that, like I'm just so passionate about it. I just kept writing songs, more and more stories. Like if I heard about an interesting story that a lot of people didn't know about, I would write a story about it, write a song about it, and then hopefully record it onto an album or an EP or something like that. So it's just something that ever since I picked up the banjo, I've always been interested in, whether I'm just playing the old ballads or writing them and performing new.
And that's one of the things that I've seen in people's stories like yourselves. Like I have friends who are actors, friends who are like MMA fighters, just various what's what we'll call non-traditional careers. And the ones who usually are able to actually live that life and make it through there are the ones who intrinsically want it. They don't want it from some extrinsic factor, which is, fame, girls, money, drugs, maybe even for people or whatever it is. Like they have to want it because they want it. Because only you wanting to live this life or enjoying living this life is going to make you write hundreds of songs and go, they're all garbage. Because if you don't want to do that, and let me paint myself as an example. I'll write one song like, well, if this isn't a hit, I'm done. Like that would be my entire attitude around the thing because I don't want to do this, right? But for somebody like yourself, like going through that process that sometimes it takes to really reach the status of where we can, right? You look at Eminem or you look at Dave Matthews or any of the bigger artists, and I mean like from a pop standpoint, like people know them and everything like that.
Mhm.
There is so many terrible songs recorded somewhere probably that is going to come out when they die because that's how they do it, right? Like you die and then they release all the bad songs that you knew weren't good enough to make an album, so people can kind of like judge you on that. Tupac has how many albums has Tupac released since he died? You know what I mean? Like that type of stuff, right? So I think that that's just one of the things that's fascinating to me about the advance of technology is it used to be those things would get lost. And then like you maybe found an old Elvis song that had been locked in somebody's closet of a family member or something like that for hundreds of, or excuse me, 50 years or whatever. But now we have people like yourself and other people who, I mean, all of that's pretty readily available because of the advances in technology. It's no longer like it's a very slim possibility a lot of times it's going to get lost. So just make sure that when you're recording those songs, you remember that someday this is going to be like your secret hits compilation or whatever, that somebody's going to release posthumously. So
Yeah, hopefully I can set it up so it happens posthumously with NFTs. Like
mm,
if I can set it up where somebody just wants to buy it and bid on it and just like just take it, and then it benefits my family, like that's how I'm already thinking about maybe setting something up like that.
I support that idea. The one hiccup that could potentially happen that I'll throw out there is just don't let it happen where like some Martin Shkreli type of jerk face is the only person who gets access to that. Because that's the thing with like, so I don't know if you're familiar with the story or not, but Wu Tang Clan had that one album that they were trying to. I think they were trying to give away the money to charity or something like that. I don't remember exactly what it was, but they sold it for like $1 million or $2 million, and it was him who bought it, and he's refused to let anybody listen to it. And so like that is one of the worst ways those things can happen. Obviously, I would hope that whoever, if you set it up through NFTs, non fungible tokens for those who aren't aware, I don't think that cleared up anything, by the way. That probably doesn't help at all. I don't think those words make any sense. But,
It
anyways,
took me 10 hours to understand what it was, so it's a
yeah.
path.
Here, I'll do the quickest explanation of that for anybody who's not already aware. I mean, I don't know how you could possibly be finding my podcast and not have seen NFTs at this point. They're everywhere on the internet, but essentially, NFTs are adding scarcity to digital items. So, for the example, the reason a Picasso is valuable is because there's only a limited number of them. But when you usually create something digitally, you can recreate it a million times over, so it has no real value because of that. So they're creating a way using, I think, blockchain technology to make digital items scarce. So you can't copy it. So there is only like one copy of a digital item and things like that. So essentially, that's the long and short of it. It gets way more complex than that, and there's a lot more to it. But that's like the very basic foundation of what NFTs are. Because I realize that because usually I try to explain stuff just in case somebody's listening, they don't know what I'm talking about. Then I'm like, yeah, non fungible tokens doesn't help at all. That's more confusing than NFTs are.
Right? Yeah. It's definitely interesting, and if I was to do that, you're right. In order to try to get around the greedy person, if I do, fortunately, if that ever happens where one person wants to buy it for $1 million, which would be awesome. I'm not expecting that to happen. Like, it would be really cool if it went for like, I don't know, $30 or something right now, but maybe release 5 versions of it, and that way 5 different people have it, and the chances of it actually being shared is much higher.
Thanks for checking out Starting Nowhere. Come find us on Facebook so you can comment on this and other clips and episodes of Starting Nowhere.